Yep, still not working. Ah, let's see. Y'all, it is not working. Hey, y'all, I still can't get this camera to work. Let's see. Yeah, y'all, it's still not working. I am not sure what happened. And you know what? It could have been something with my update yesterday. Maybe I have to. Let me just try something else. We already about out of time. We've been trying to figure this out. Hold on, y'all. Well, it's just be a troubleshooting morning. Hold on. Let's see. Where is my camera? Maybe. Appearance. Nope. Nope. I never look for my camera. Hold on, y'all. It's gonna take me a second. You know what we're gonna do? So y'all can go and get about y'all morning while I'm trying to figure this out. We just gonna. I didn't want to just like not come on while I was still trying to figure it out. Um, let's see. Nope, that didn't work. I'm so sorry, y'all. Yes, I'm having issues. Okay. And I don't think it's StreamYard. I think it's operator error. You know what, y'all? Let's do this. It's 6:53. I've taken long enough trying to find my what you call it, trying to figure out what was going on with this morning. So let's resume tomorrow morning because this is gonna pluck my nerves. I'm gonna have to call Jeremiah down here because I don't know what I'm doing. All right, y'all. Let's see. Unless y'all want to just hang here, I can still. Y'all want me to still read? Y'all can't see me. We can still read something then. Yeah, let's do that. Cause I was about to start stressing out. Let's just read something. Y'all can't see my face, but y'all can still hear us. Okay, okay. Let's do it then. All right. Well, we almost out of time, but happy Wednesday anyway, beautiful people. It is October the 11th, 2023, day 112 of year 5 of reading through books, laws, and prophets. Another 5-year consecutive day count. It is a 1,492. Let's see. We're gonna read chapter 28 in the book of Fragapati. Oh my gosh, it is extremely long. Let's see. You know what? Yeah, we're just gonna read this one chapter because it's 43 verses, but all of the verses are super long. It is literally like 3 pages. I'm sorry, no, it's like 4 pages, but that'll be our reading for today. So let's just go and read it. So, Father, we thank you that you are extremely kind. All right, y'all. So chapter 28, starting on page 212. And if you're reading the electronic version, it's chapter XXVIII. Okay. The goddess Ariel slackened the speed of her aeroship to suit that of Hoab's vessel, so onward together they sped in a direct line, propelled as a rocket is propelled by constant emissions from the hulk, the which expenditure is manufactured by the crew and commanders, skilled in welding, wielding, skilled in wielding Jehovah's elements. For as mortals find means to traverse the ocean and to raise a balloon, so do the gods and spirits build and propel mightier vessels through the firmament betwixt the stars and over and under and beyond the sun. And when the Etherians, highest rays and the most subtle spears, send their ships coursing downward in the denser strata of a corporal world, their ready workmen take in ballast and turn the fans and reverse the whirling screws to match the space and course of travel, for which purpose men learn the trade, having rank and grade according to proficiency, many of them serving 1,000 years apprenticeship, becoming so skilled in wielding the elements and in the knowledge of the degrees of density that thousands of millions of miles of roadways in heaven are as a well-learned book to them. And thus, conversant with Jehovah's wide domains, they are eagerly sought after, especially in emergent cases or on journeys of millions of years, for so well they know the requirements, the places of delight, the dangers of vortices and of eddies and whirlpools, that when a god saith, "Take me hither or yonder," they know the nearest way and the power required. For as Jehovah hath made icebergs on the corporal ocean, dangerous to ships, and heavy currents of trade winds, and currents in the oceans, so are there in the Etherian firmament currents and densities which the well skilled God can take advantage of, be it a slow ship of pleasure or a swift one on urgent business to suffering angels or mortals, and be it God or goddess dispatched by a higher council to a distant place suddenly, he or she must be already acquainted with navigators sufficiently to know whom to choose, and likewise understand the matter well enough to lend a helping hand if required. For oft the navigators have not swift messengers to pilot them, and yet a short journey of 50,000 miles may require as much skill as a million, especially in descending to a corporal world. Hoab knew, and he managed well, following close on the arrow's trail till they neared the ruined plateau, and then amidst the broken currents, Arion dropped alongside, perceiving Hoab's less wieldly vessel, and made fast. She said to Hoab, "Behold, we are near the place." Then Hoab asked, "How foundest thou a knot in such a wasted country?" Arion answered him, "When Jehovah created woman, he gave her two chief attributes, curiosity and solicitude for others." Highlight that. All right. That's verse 8, on page 213 at the top. When Jehovah created woman, he gave her two chief attributes, curiosity and solicitude for others. So, passing here, surveying the place where the first heavenly kingdom was, I remembered it had been said that Af left some island places where once a colony in heaven had been built, and I halted to examine it. A moan and terrible sound greeted me. I heard the Osivi knots as I had oft heard others before. We landed and made fast, and presently went about searching, led by the sad, sad noise. Then we came to the great mound, the knot, 1,000,000,000 druhas bound in a heap, wailing, muffled, moaning as if the heap of them were in the throes of death, but could not die. I remember, and I mentioned this before last year when we read through this like the first time, because I was reading through Robert Monroe's journeys. Remember, that's the guy who now has a university. He's been passed away, but we learned about him who was reading through My Big Toe. You know, the 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 engineer who started meditating and started researching into it because he was a really scientific guy. So he wanted to understand what was really happening during meditation, and that's when he ran into Dr. Robert Monroe. And so he actually had the money to build the stuff that you needed to actually test the body and get the medical equipment that was expensive and everything. And so they started running tests on people, hooking them up to the little machines when they were meditating and seeing where they were going. So during one of these sessions in the first book, I want to say towards the more towards the end of the first book, it's a 3-part trilogy. And I'll repost the book link again. You can get it from Amazon and it's on Audible, all 3 books. But I read about this before we had even got to any of this in Owaspy. Matter of fact, we hadn't even started reading Owaspy yet when we read through Journeys by Robert Monroe. And they were saying that through their meditation, some of their meditation sessions, that when they would have the outer body experiences or astral project, when they would go into other realms, that they would see these knots, and they were full of people, full of souls. But the force that drew you to it was so strong that if you weren't strong enough in spirit, you'd be pulled right into this big ball of activity, which seemed that nobody could get out of. So when we came across it the first time last year, reading through why someone was like, wait a minute, somebody else was talking about this. And that's when I went back there, and that's exactly what they saw. So apparently this is real, even though I haven't personally experienced it. This is 2 separate accounts, and somebody who never mentioned anything about. And matter of fact, Robert Monroe was not a religious man at all. He was a businessman, and he was completely into science and proving whether things are true or not, and writing it down and tracking it so other people could learn, so everything wouldn't be so spooky, scary, religious, like nobody can understand this. He realized there were certain things that could be broken down to a science, especially when it comes to the body and how we were designed and how we can operate. All right, so let me go back here. I'm gonna go back to verse 8. Verse 213. I'm sorry, page 213, verse 8 at the top. When Jehovah created woman, he gave her 2 chief attributes: curiosity and solicitude for others. So passing here, surveying the place where the first heavenly kingdom was, I remember it had been said that Off left some island places where once a colony in heaven had been built, and I halted to examine it. A moan and terrible sound greeted me. I heard the Osivi knots as I had oft heard others before. We landed and made fast, and presently went about searching, led by the sad, sad noise. Then we came to the great mound, the knot, 1,000 million Druhas bound in a heap, wailing, muffled, moaning as if all the heap of them were in the throes of death, but could not die. Being myself powerless to overcome such fearful odds, I took the bearing of the regions where I should find the nearest God, and so having measured the knot, I set sail as thou hast heard. Joab said, every day I behold thy wisdom, O Jehovah. In a new light, thy wondrous judgment riseth up before me. Who but thee, O Father, hath seen the fruitage of curiosity made perfect in thy daughters? Women make the best detectives too. I'm just saying, the curiosity don't kill the cat. It invigorates women. Don't tell her no half truths, because she will find you out. Who but thee, O Father, have seen the fruitage of curiosity made perfect in thy daughters, from the little bud seen in mortal form to the overscanning of thy heavens by such goddesses? As thus Joab discoursed, they arrived at a suitable landing place where they made their vessels fast and then hurried to the knot. Without much ado, Joab walled the knot around with a low fire, leaving a gateway to the east, where he placed 1,000 sentinels. 1,000,000 of his army he stationed outside of and beyond the walls, and these were divided into groups of selectors, guardmen, physicians, nurses, and bearers, and manufacturers of fire and water. The selectors were provided with rods of fire and water and blinds. And after water and blinds, after and is reference number 26. And 26 at the bottom at the top of the page says, rods of fire and water, and the guardsmen with shields and blinds. All right, verse 13. Then Joab stationed another 1,000,000 betwixt the knot and the gateway, and these were stationed in 4 rows, each 2 rows facing, but 2 paces apart, so that betwixt the rows it was like a walled alleyway. And the other 3,000,000 Joab caused to surround the knot on every side. Each and every one of these was provided with a fire lamp, which they held in the right hand. And when all things were thus in readiness, Joab commanded the attack to begin. And at once the attackers thrust their fire lamps in the face of the Druze nearest by, and seizing them with the other hand, pulled them away. The Druze do not all relinquish their grip in the knot. The Druze do not all relinquish their grip in the knot at sight of the lamp, but often require to be nearly burned and stifled with the light before they release their hold. Neither come this grip of evil, but of fear. The knot is nothing more or less than a mass of millions and millions of spirits becoming panic-stricken and falling upon their chief or leader, who becometh powerless in their grip and is quickly rolled up in the midst of the knot. So remember, if y'all forgot what a hell knot was, this is what it is. Someone like us who has risen to a certain level, being fully born spirit, seeing themselves, calling themselves a leader or a god, not being fully developed, they amass groups of people, groups of spirits to themselves, and thus they become their leader, their god, or whatever, where they bow down, whom though the group of people that's following them, they begin to bow down and worship them. But what happens is, it always comes to a point where the God in charge of this people slowly begins to realize, and sometimes they quickly begin to realize, that they are not it, that there certainly is a God higher than them, and that the people that they are ruling have become restless. So when they start asking them for answers and they can't give it, they try to run away pretty much. But then it's like you've led all these people for these many years, millions of years, sometime, with some gods or goddesses, and now they don't know what to do. They don't know any other. So they run to their abuser and they fall on them pretty much out of fear. Like, don't leave us, please. Like, this God then made you a slave and had you doing all kinds of things against your creator. But they don't know anything else at this point, because they thought this was truly God. And they fall on them out of fear. And then the God who is themselves become panic stricken and you can say hopeless. They fall down on the ground in fetal form, just pretty much covering up themselves, while the masses of their children and slaves just fall upon them for help, like, help us please, but they're powerless to help. And then when they all dog pile and football pile to God, they get this massive knot, and it's there. So at the root, or at the bottom of every knot, is a god or goddess who has gotten out of line with the creator and thought that they could run things. All right, verse 14. The knot is nothing more or less than a mass of millions and millions of spirits becoming panic-stricken and falling upon their chief or leader, who becometh powerless in their grip and is quickly rolled up in the midst of the knot. And when the deliverers thus began at the exterior of the knot, peeling off the crazed and moaning spirits, they hurl them backward, where they are caught by the seconds, who in turn hurl them into the alleyways, where they are again thrust forward till past the gate in the wall of fire. From the time, therefore, that the Druhas received the thrust of the fire lamp in his face, he is not suffered to linger, but is whirled suddenly from one to another so quickly he cannot fasten to any person or thing. So these gods and goddesses in training helping to break up these hell knots. Like this is what happens in hells and everything. You got those who are trained in the line of light of Creator, right? They haven't fallen off. They are full of righteousness. They literally go down and deliver these souls who are stuck in these hells of their own making, mind you, right? And even the makings of others who have fooled them. They literally, if you've ever been in the military, they have what you call working parties, right? And so there you are literally most of the time shoulder to shoulder, or for those who are not familiar with that, you ever seen on the news when there's like this major emergency or catastrophe and you got FEMA coming and you get a bunch of volunteers, or say there's a hurricane and they need to put down sandbags. So you got this long line of people who is just passing sandbags down. Instead of walking from one end to the other, they line up people pretty much shoulder to shoulder, or at least enough space apart where they can hand the sandbag directly off to the next person. So they got these long working parties of these gods and goddesses that are here to help deliver these hell knots. And so as they pull them away from the hell knot, they're literally passing them down the line, passing that sandbag down this long line to get them out of here. And then they're going to get them to a place where they can contain them and help them to restore them to their senses spiritually. All right. Verse 15. And when the deliverers thus began at the exterior of the knot, peeling off the crazed and moaning spirits, they hurl them backwards, where they are caught by the seconds, who in turn hurl them into the alleyways, where they are again thrust forward to pass the gate and the wall of fire. From the time, therefore, that the Druze receiveth the thrust of the fire lamp in his face, he is not suffered to linger. Like, we ain't pulling you away and standing you off to the side. No, my G, everybody gonna put hands on you. From the time, therefore, that the Druze receiveth the thrust of the fire lamp in his face, he is not suffered to linger, but is whirled suddenly from one to another so quickly he cannot fasten to any person or thing. For where they were they to fasten on even the deliverers, first one, then the other, soon a second knot would result, because of which to untie a knot of 1,000 million crazed angels is not only a dangerous proceeding, but a feat of unusual grandeur to be undertaken by 5 million Etherians. To provide against accident, Hoab appointed Athara to take charge of the delivered after they were beyond the walls. And I just thought of something, thinking about people being physically delivered here, whether they are in mental institutions or whatever, leaving a hospital for something, or mental illness, all of these things, or even being delivered from drugs and addictions and stuff. I realized that there is a break in the chain. There is a break in the working party where a lot of these people, when they're done, say they're especially somebody coming out of rehab, right? When they come out of rehab, and sometimes it could be their own choice, but granted, you can't you can't really force adults to do anything. And I can't say that there should be a way. I ain't gonna say you strong arm people, but in some cases, until they are fully delivered in a way, and not just physically, but even making sure that they're not just physically delivered from whatever has been holding them bondage, we shouldn't let them go until they have been mentally delivered as well. Like, they're going to be rehabs. It shouldn't just be to keep you there long enough to keep you off the dope or whatever it is, or off the alcohol. There should be also a phase where you go through where you're not released from this program, and it should be a few years. Granted, it probably costs a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money on foolishness. It can be sponsored, or some people can pay for their stuff. but they should go through a process where they are mentally delivered, and not just to where, yeah, I think I got it under control, but we need to see behavioral changes. We need to see that you're not triggered by certain things before we relinquish our hold on you, right? Just like this working party, they just toss them from one to the other, not even giving you a chance, right? Because it's been proven by your life that you have gotten out of control, and people more trained and who love you, even people who don't know you, but they just love people. All of these people who are trained, they should pass you from one place to the other until you are truly delivered. That for when you go back out here in the world, none of these things phase you. You don't have these triggers. All of these things have been worked out of your psyche. You literally been delivered from the very depths of your soul, your shanana. Hey, son. Okay, let me finish reading this. We almost out of time.
You know, one thing I love
What?
is that I understood all this stuff is just morally sitting and thinking to myself. Well, just sitting and thinking to myself. I started becoming more morally correct within myself, and all this stuff just sounds like stuff I already do. So I'm just sitting here like,
well, yeah, good. It is definitely a process. Okay.
Last time, can you please look over the ATS stuff?
I will look over it. We'll talk about it. Okay. For were they to fasten on even the deliverers, first one and then another, soon a second knot would result, because of which to untie a knot of 1,000 million crazed angels is not only a dangerous proceeding, but a feat of unusual grandeur to be undertaken by 5 million Etherians. To provide against accident, Hoab appointed Athavra to take charge of the delivered after they were beyond the walls, for Athavra had been long practiced in such matters thousands of years. So Athavra divided and arranged the Druhas into groups, placing guardians with fire rods over them, and in some cases taking the groups away and walling them around with fire also. Now, by the time 500 million of the knot were released, some of the external delivered groups Now, by the time 500 million of the knot were released, some of the external delivered groups began to tie themselves in knots. And when Athavra saw this, he said unto Hoab, behold, they are becoming too numerous for my host. I have not sufficient guardsmen, Hoab said. Then will I cease a while, and instead of delivering, come to assist thee. Accordingly, Hoab suspended the battle for a time, and together they labored with those without, untying the small knots and arranging them in safer ways, placing a greater number of guards over them. This done, the Essenars struck up lively music, started dancings and marchings, for such is the routine of the restoring process practiced by the gods. Right? Listen, if y'all ever seen, now I'm not giving medical advice. I got my banner, my banner is rolling. So if you've ever seen someone, and I've seen some little clips that they've shown, you can go on YouTube and find it. And I think it's people with dementia. I want to say it's dementia, right? Now, I'm not giving medical advice, but we know from, or at least I know and understand from studying, the root cause of dementia is dehydration. Right now, I'm not a medical doctor, and neither am I giving advice. Right, but they showed, and this didn't really have anything to do with what they were showing, was that music actually helps those who have lost their mind or forgotten who they are. That music helps to remind people who they are. So if a person who currently has dementia, somewhere earlier in life, if there was this memory attached to music, when they hear this song, they would come to themselves and they would even remember all the words of the song, even though it seems like they've forgotten everything else and forgotten themselves. So they saw how powerful music was in helping people to remember things. And I'm like, that's really interesting. I just thought about that while reading through this. But if you know anybody, I would recommend you look into some of the holistic things about that and begin hydrating the body properly, not just with water, but with H3O2 from fruits, juicing, and things like that. And I didn't say hey to everybody because I'm trying to figure out this foolery with my camera. Let me say hey to everybody real quick. Look, if y'all got to go, it's 7:20. I do want to finish this chapter because tomorrow is definitely going to be a short day because of my class. Nazarite to see what's going on, fam. Grand Rising. Jamil said, Pam, you can still read. Yeah, because I was about to cut out. It was plucking my nerves. I never did it just audio. And now I'm thinking I could probably do like a little podcast where I know a few people say you should just do a podcast. I like the videos, but I think these can be turned into podcasts so people can like put it on like I don't know, the podcast station on the radio or something like that. Blessed are us. Thank you. Tanya Bumberry, shalom, sis. My mom said, please read. Bronze Yogi, what's going on, fam? You might have a driver conflict. If you're using Windows, go to Device Manager and uninstall the camera, then reboot so Windows can reassign the IRQ. Listen, you talking technical, but thank you for that. I'm going to follow those directions once we get done. Just me. Thank you for that. And hopefully by tomorrow I can have my camera feed restored. Kings and Queens Coaching Group, shalom, shalom. Trace and Righteous, what's going on, fam? Your audio went in and out a couple of times. Okay. Shalom, sis. That might be Misha, or it could be Linda, but shalom. Coming from the private Facebook group. Tone, the lonely one. Shalom, tribe, create a gang. This is good, the reading. And processed sugars too, which are dehydrating. I think it has something to do with mineral deficiency also. Yeah, absolutely. Because if you become dehydrated, you're going to become deficient in a lot of things. And now, listen, I've been going for like the last month. Y'all, they got these IV clinics, right? You know how if you get sick, you go to the hospital, the first thing they give you is an IV. Well, now they actually have IV clinics where you can go and they just give you IV bags just to make sure you're hydrated. So while I'm, flushing my body and cleansing, I purchased this little package where I go once a week and they give me an IV, but also they give me vitamin injections as well. And I found out, I'm like, well, wait a minute. I didn't think I was dehydrated. I've been plant-based, but been a junk food vegan, just eating stuff that's still dehydrating. It's processed plant-based stuff. So I'm really making a full conscious decision to stop all the foolery with my diet, even with the vegan junk food crap, right? So, but going there weekly and actually, and I was deficient in vitamin D. I had them do a full blood panel on me, and it showed some of the deficiencies that I had. I'm like, you couldn't look at me until I was deficient in nothing. So, but what I realized though, it has absolutely been amazing me. Like my sweet tooth. Look, this is why my grandmama name, my grandbabies don't call me grandma. They call me Cookie. I personally chose Cookie because I love chocolate chip cookies, right? But I realized by being deficient in some things and having sugar and cravings out of control in my body, that it just caused a lot of things to go out of whack that I really didn't realize. I knew something was wrong, but I just really couldn't tell. But by going there for the last month and actually being some of the extra hydration, I've been juicing more as well, and even getting some vitamin D injections and other vitamins in my IV. The cravings, the sugar cravings, they're like next to non-existent at this point. I'm like, wow. And it feels amazing. And even my sleep at night, when I say I sleep a deep sleep like I haven't slept in years, sometimes I'll sleep because I'm tired, I'll just sleep. But there's like I can't even describe it for real. It's like this deep, satisfying sleep. Like, oh my gosh, like this is like a sleep from heaven. It's like a sleep that you can feel down in your soul. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not realize how even my sleep was being affected by an improper diet. And me being plant-based and all the junk that I was eating, I'm like, man, so this is really amazing to me. So, and even with just doing that, and I haven't really for real been on top of my workout game like I was, but even just properly hydrating my body and getting the vitamins that I'm deficient in, like the cravings, like I said, they're next to non-existent. They're I done lost 7 pounds and I ain't even did nothing. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I ain't consuming all this sugar and crap, right? I'm just like, you know what? This is amazing. I told my mom and my sisters about it. I was like, look, y'all need to just go check it out or something. But my body feels amazing. I did go through like a little bit of a detox where a headache and all of that stuff like the first 2 weeks, but I was kind of used to that from when I would fast. But this is it, I feel absolutely amazing, and I'm sure as the days go on and everything becomes right and balanced in my body, it's just going to be even better. But it's been the best sleep. Jamia said, I'm sorry, for the past 3 weeks, I have been taking trace and mineral drops in my water, and now my memory is better. Okay, sis. And now my memory is better. Now I'm able to remember my dreams. Minerals have a lot to do with memory. That's good. I haven't really been dreaming a lot. I think my body has just been so starved of sleep, even though I have slept, but I've dreamt, but it's just they haven't really been active. My body has just really been resting, and even some aches and pains in my knees. I'm like, oh Lord, I'm only 43 years old. Why can I tell when it's about to rain? My knees creaking and stuff. I need Meg the Stallion knees. Look, so I was like, yeah, we ain't having this. Anytime my body get tight or I have back pains, I realize that's a sign of dehydration. If your kidneys start hurting, it's a sign of dehydration, you know. But yeah, fasting. Listen, Tone, the lowly one. When I would water fast, right? So after you get through that detox period, which you need at least 7 days to get through a good detox period and get all that worked out when the body starts restoring itself. I agree with you. Ain't nothing like sleep after a fast. Because it's doing the same thing. It's releasing your body of all of those toxins so your body can begin doing the things that it needs to do to restore and heal itself. And I agree with that. And also once you begin to do that, even while fasting, you're going to realize you don't even need a lot of sleep. So even though some people call it insomnia when they fast and they don't like it, but they fail to realize what's actually happening with their body, and it's really a good thing. It's not insomnia. I would not even term it as that. It's your body not needing all that extra sleep to process things that's going on in your body. So when you're moving good and you're cleaned out and everything is flowing properly, you do not need that much sleep. And even maybe the 3 or 4 hours, some people even get like 5 hours while they're fasting. When I fast, when I get past that detox period, I don't sleep any more than 4 hours a night. But that 4 hours is amazing, and it's completely restorative, and it is a deep sleep. So I did one no food, no water. You did a absolute fast. Yeah. So I mean, it works. And it is amazing. And everybody that's hanging out in the background, top of the day to you. Look, if y'all missed early, I'm having issues with my camera. That's why we started so late. I was messing with it. Then I figured I'm going to just get it started. Maybe it'll just work. But it didn't. So I was about to turn everybody off and say, let's try this again tomorrow. But everybody was like, let's read because we can still hear you. So let me go ahead and finish up this chapter, y'all. All right. So verse 19 is where we paused. On page 214 at the top. This done, the Essenars struck up lively music, starting dancings and marchings, for such is the routine of the restoring process practiced by gods. Then come the nurses with cheerful words, with mirth and gaiety, following one diversion with another in rapid succession. But to the raving maniacs and to the stupid and to the helpless blind, the physicians now turned their attention. Again, Joab and his army fell upon the knot, pulling the external ones away and hurling them out, but not so rapidly, having fewer deliverers, for he had been bequeathed an extra million to a for he had bequeathed an extra million to a Thavra outside the walls. And after another 300 million were delivered, Joab ceased again and joined with Athavra to assist and divide and group them in the same way. And he bequeathed another million of his army to Athavra, and then again resumed the attack on the knot, and thus continued till he reached the core of the knot, having untied the whole 1,000,000 Druhas, gradually lessening his own army and enlarging that of Athavra. And when Joab came to the core of the knot, behold, he found Obi, the false god who falsely styled himself Thor, the Etherian. And in the midst of the knot, they had jewels of rare value and stolen crowns and stolen symbols and rods and holy water and urns. I don't know why I thought about, you know how when some people die, they like bury me with all my stuff, right? This false god who he lost control of everything. Obi is at the root of this knot with all his pomp and splendor. And when Joab came to the core of the knot, behold, he found Obi, the false god who falsely styled himself Thor, the Etherian. And in the midst of the knot, they had jewels of rare value and stolen crowns and stolen symbols and rods and holy water and urns and incense and a broken wheel of Jehovah, a broken triangle of the gods, and in fact, a sufficiency of things whereof one might write a book in description. Suffice it, a false god and his kingdom had collapsed, and he fell, crushed in the glory of his throne. And there were with him 7 false lords who were also crushed in the terrible fall. Obi and his lords, from their confinement in the knot, were also crazed and wild with fear, screaming and crying with all their strength, even as were all the others, like drunkards, long debauched, delirious and fearful of imaginary horrors which have no existence, or as one's hand long compressed becometh numb, so that when the pressure is taken away, it still seemeth not free. So would not Obi nor his lords believe they were free, but still cried, calling for help. At this time there came from Ahoan, god of Japheth, a messenger with 40 companions and with 500 apprentices, and the messenger's name was Turbi, an atmospherian, 300 years, grade 2. Greeting from Ahoan in Jehovah's name. Turbi said, to whom shall I speak? To whose honor this deliverance credit save Jehovah's? Athavra said, to Joab, a Zoredhoian disciple of Fragapati who is sojourning in Moru, capital of Harati. And Athavra further asked Turbi his name, whence he came, and especially if he knew about this knot before, and the history of its cause. To which Turbi replied, from Ahoan, this I have learned. Some 400 years ago, one of the sub-gods named Obi, because of his modesty and bird-like fleetness, was promoted to Samadhi, who is now commissioned master of the Ehuans by Fragapati. And after Samadhi, Samati is reference letter K. So remember, the letter references are at the end of the chapter. And on page 236, K says, Samadhi here referred to is the Ehua Mazda with Zarathustra. He had been an atmospherian god for 400 years and chief god for 200 years. This is the origin of Ibis worship. 1882 edition. All right, so go back to page 215, verse 25. I'll start it over. Remember, if y'all got to go to work, go ahead and get out here. If y'all can't listen while y'all supposed to be at work, then cut it off and come back later. Derek, shalom, shalom. Yosef ben Yisrael, shalom, fam. A lot of these camp leaders are self-proclaimed but find themselves having to be delivered from one of these knots. And I do not disagree with that, just me, right? So if they don't get that together pretty soon, they might find themselves dazed and crazed at the middle of one of these knots, which is a sad thing, right? But some of them are unwilling to even just consider that they might be wrong, right? From Ahoan, this have I learned. Some 400 years ago, one of the sub-gods named Obi, because of his modesty and bird-like fleetness, was promoted by Samadhi, who is now commissioned master of the Ehuans by Fragapati. This, whom Hoab hath delivered, is Obi, the one-time faithful sub-god of honorable purposes. His kingdom prospered for 200 years, and his name and fame spread throughout all these heavens and even down to mortals who were inspired by his admiring spirits to make images of birds, Obi or ibis, and dedicate them to Obi. He became vain of the flattery and, losing faith in Jehovah, finally came out in unbelief, saying there was no all highest, save as each and every God chose to exalt himself. Within his dominions, which numbered nearly 1,000 million angels, were a score or more of lords under him, to the wisest of whom he began to preach his views, looking to personal laudation and glory. In the course of a score of years, the matter culminated in Obi and a few of his favorite lords proclaiming a new kingdom styled the all highest kingdom in the all highest heaven. And the title he assumed was Thor, the only begotten son of all light. Thor, the all light personated. Thor, the personal son of me, the virgin universe. Thus Obi cut loose from the true God and his kingdoms, and he immediately walled his kingdom around with a standing army, promoting 7 of his most efficient admirers as lords and others as generals and captains. And at once he set about enlarging and enriching his throne and his capital, which he called Osivi, and known as Houts on the true charts. In the course of 100 years, his kingdom became a place of 2,000 million souls. His chief city, Osivi, was the richest and most gaudy city that had ever been in these heavens. The streets were paved with precious stones. The palaces for himself, his lords, and his marshals and generals were built mostly of costly jewels, with pillars, arches, and chambers of the most elaborate workmanship and of the most costly material. Obi became a tyrant, and save his lords and a few favorite friends, none were permitted to approach his throne but by crawling on their bellies and even under guard. Nor were they permitted to raise their eyes upon him, save at a very great distance. And all his subjects were his slaves. In fact, though under progressive discipline, and all his subjects were his slaves. In fact, though under progressive discipline, these slaves were sent far away into atmosphere or else down to the earth to gather tribute for the glory of Thor or Obi and his favorites. Nor did these slaves mistrust, but they were working for Jehovah, believing that he lived in the capital, Osivi, right? So all of these people, all of these spirits thought that they were worshiping Jehovah, right? Because they were tricked and believed this false god, one of their own brethren, who styled himself, right, as the highest god. They were tricked. They were working for Jehovah, but they had been duped, and they were truly working for this false god. And we see that still happening in some of these religions. People really think that they are some of them really think that they are worshiping true God, when in fact they are worshiping something other than that. Let me read this whole verse again. Verse 30. Obi became a tyrant, and save his lords and a few favorite friends, none were permitted to approach his throne but by crawling on their bellies and even under guard. Nor were they permitted to raise their eyes upon him, save at a very great distance. And all his subjects were his slaves. In fact, though under progressive discipline, these slaves were sent far away into atmosphere or else down to the earth to gather tribute for the glory of Thor, or Obi, and his favorites, nor did these slaves mistrust, but they were working for Jehovah, believing that he lived in the capital, Osivi. At first, Thor educated and otherwise improved his slaves, but finding them less obedient in consequence of knowledge, he finally destroyed all the heavenly schools and colleges and resolved to keep his subjects forever ignorant. Consequently, the wiser ones deserted him, save his officers and his angels were without knowledge, knowing nothing, save that they had worked for Thor forever. In addition to ignorance, Thor kept his subjects forever in fear of himself, forever threatening them with terrible punishments if they ceased to pray to him as the only personified all like Jehovah. This sounds just like Christianity, right? If you forsake Jesus Christ, you're going to hell. Look. In addition, this verse 32, in addition to ignorance, Thor kept his subjects forever in fear of himself, forever threatening them with terrible punishments if they ceased to pray to him as the only personified all like Jehovah. And in the course of time, his people forgot all aspiration for any other heaven or any other God. Many of these were deputized to dwell with mortals as guardian spirits, persuading mortals to worship Thor and Ibis, threatening them with being turned into serpents and toads after death if they obeyed not these injunctions. And we almost done, y'all. Like I said, if y'all got to go to work, go ahead and get out of here. Thus ruled Thor the False for 400 years in Osivi. Neither was it possible for Samadhi to send an army of sufficient strength to overcome such a kingdom. But a change finally came. A light descended from the higher heavens 6 generations ago, and according to the legends of old, it was ominous that the gods of higher worlds would intercede. So Samadhi, taking advantage of this, sent emissaries to Thor, otherwise Obi, and solicited him to give over his evil ways and reestablish Jehovah. Thor the False sent back word saying, when I was a child, I was taught to fear Jehovah and I feared him. After long experience, I have discovered there is nothing to fear in all the worlds. If there be any Jehovah, he is without form or person or sense. I fear him not. I revere him not. My heaven is good enough for me and my lords. As for my subjects, let no man, nor God, nor Lord meddle with them. Samadhi, who was the lawful God of all these heavens and the earth, thus perceived no way to reach Thor's slaves, for the slaves were too ignorant to desire anybody or anything save Thor. Now that is a very dangerous place to be, that you have been so what's the word? There's a word. You have been so inundated, and that's not the word I was looking for. Man, it's right on the tip of my tongue. That you have been so tricked into believing that what you believe is true when it's actually false, that you don't even dare to look at anything else. And that's like the same pattern that Christians do. Oh, nope, that's black. Don't even tell me about it. I don't want to hear it. Thank you. Get out here. I will pray for your soul. God bless you. Right? This is exactly what happens there. And not just there, but I just come out of Christianity, so I know it really well. Elijah, peace and blessings. So listen to this. Samadhi, who was the lawful God of all these heavens and the earth, thus perceived no way to reach Thor's slaves, for the slaves were too ignorant to desire anybody or anything save Thor. Nevertheless, he sent word a second time to Thor, this time saying, "Thy kingdom is now destitute of intelligent people sufficient to protect thee in case of panic. If a comet or any sudden light or the passage of an avalanche through thy dominions should take place, thou wouldst surely find thyself overthrown in a knot. Thy subjects look upon thee as the all highest, they will surely rush upon thee." Thor sent the messengers back with an insulting answer. Thus the matter stood till after Ahoan's appointment as god of Japheth and her heavens, which at once cut off Thor's emissaries to mortals and confined him within his own kingdom. At this time, somebody was commissioned to establish the word of God amongst mortals, but he communicated Thor's position to Ahoan. Ahoan sent ambassadors to Thor the false, beseeching him in the same manner to give up his personality and return with his kingdom to Jehovah, promising him the best of assistance. To this, Thor the false replied by the messengers, saying, "Ahoan, thou usurper, if thou desirest favors of me, thou shalt approach me as all the gods and angels do, by crawling on thy belly before me." Oh, I bet he eating them words while he's screaming, balled up in a fetal position, while all his kingdom has fallen upon him. Look, we're on verse 39, y'all. 38. We got 43 verses. "Ahoan, thou usurper, if thou desirest favors of me, thou shalt approach me as all gods and angels do, by crawling on thy belly before me. Encroach thou not one jot or tittle on my most high kingdom, or I will banish thee back to thy miscreant regions with stripes and curses." Ahoan was surprised, but perceived that till trouble came upon Obi, nothing could be done for him. So the time came, Jehovah suffered him to go the full period of self-glory. Thus Obi fell. Turby ceased, and Athava said, "O Jehovah, when will man cease to fall? Thou hast proclaimed thyself in all places, high and low. Thy gods and lords and countless angels have proclaimed thee. Thou alone art the password to all the universe." Oh. Thou art the password to all the universe. Thy name hath 1,000 exalted devices to win the souls of mortals and angels from darkness to light, and yet they turn away from thee, thou creator of suns and stars and countless ethereal worlds. And they set themselves as an object of worship. And they set up themselves as an object of worship. Oh, the smallness of gods and men. Oh, the vanity of thy little children. Thou hast said to mortals, "Go not into the marshes, for there is fever. Build not large cities, for there is sin. Go not after lust, for there is death." But they go in headlong, and they are buried and dead. And after buried is reference number 27, and 27 at the bottom says they are bruised. And they set themselves up as an object of worship. Oh, the smallness of gods and men. Oh, the vanity of thy little children. Thou hast said to mortals, "Go not into the marshes, for there is fever. Build not large cities, for there is sin. Go not after lust, for there is death." But they go in headlong, and they are buried and dead. To those who are risen in heaven, thou hast said, "Remember the lessons of the earth, lest ye fall. Remember the fate of self-conceit, lest ye be scourged. Remember the king and the queen of the earth, how they become bound in heaven, lest ye also become bound." But they will not heed. Vain self riseth up in the soul. They behold no other God but themselves, in whom they acknowledge wisdom. And that, my beautiful people, is the end of chapter 28. And we are way past our time today, but it was good. I definitely wanted to finish this chapter. Thank y'all for hanging out. Y'all the real MVPs, even though we started late because of my whole camera foolery. I'm gonna get this fixed, y'all. We should be back on tomorrow. So that is it. That's good. Just me said that's true. Because whenever something happens out of the ordinary, look, you right. Anytime something happens, that's true. Because whenever something happens out of the ordinary, people, folk, I think I know what you meant. People, they run to the churches and fill them up for a time. They run to their false gods, right? I remember when 9/11 happened, right? I don't know why I thought about that. It says here, hold on. What did he say? If an avalanche, right here in verse 35, he said, thy kingdom is now even destitute of intelligent people sufficient to protect thee in case of panic. If a comet or any sudden light or the passage of an avalanche or through thy dominion should take place, thou wouldest surely find thyself overthrown in the night. Thy subjects look upon thee as the all highest, and they will surely rush upon thee. That is so true. Church attendance was the highest it had ever been, and I don't know how long. Men and women. The men was overrunning the women getting into the church after 9/11, crying out to the God of Jesus Christ, crying out to Jesus Christ. Like, why has this happened? Babylon is falling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how dumb can we be, right? But at that time, look, I was already in the church. I'm just like, yep, judgment is happening to America. But this is so true. This is so true. This is still happening, right? But this is good. This is good. All right, beautiful people. It is Wednesday, October the 11th, 2023, day 112 of year 5 of reading through books, laws, and prophets, and of the 5-year consecutive day count. It is day 1492, and we read only chapter 28 of Fragga Patty because it was a long 43 verses. With that being said, I think I'm going to use what they said in here as my outgoing adoration of the Creator. Oh, it should say flock. That's what I thought you would. I couldn't remember the word, but yeah, people flock. Yeah, say people folk to the churches. I just said run to because I was trying to get the word flock, but it wasn't coming. Look, so the adoration for the Creator today, I'm taking it right out of the book of Fragga Patty, out of verse 40. Father, thou alone art the password to all the universe. All right, beautiful people. That is it for today. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early. Like I said, I hope I got this whole camera thing under control. Just me. I'm going to follow what you said. I'm going to do that and see if that works. All right, y'all. I love y'all, and I will see y'all later. Peace.
But I see through you.
I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gold, I've been far away. I'm illuminated now, making
What did you just do to me?
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
What just happened?
For a moment, you entered the astral dimension.
What?
A place where the soul exists apart from the body.
Why are you doing this to me?
To show you just how much you don't know. Open your eyes.
Been dreaming about flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a cold sign.
What's happening? This isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real, this is...
Dreaming about flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a cold sign.
His heart rate is getting dangerously high.
He looks all right to me. You think that this particular universe is all there is?
I don't need gravity, I don't need
What mysteries lie beyond the reach of your senses? Existence, mind and matter. Thoughts, shape, reality.
I don't need gravity, I just need growth. I'm a fine line, yeah, I'm a mislead of this illusion. I am not really here, I'm an intrusion. I don't swim or sink, I just float.
Some benevolent and life-giving, filled with malice and hunger. Dark places where powers older than time and waiting.
I don't swim or sink, I just float.
Who are you in this vast multiverse?
I don't need gravity, I just need growth. I don't need gravity, I just need gravity, I just need growth.
Have you seen that before in a gift shop?
I don't need gravity, I just need growth.
Teach me.
No.
It's an earthquake rumble. I won't ever ever fall, never stumble. And I don't need to be humble. Break down walls like Jericho crumble.
But I